Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Robin Hills, welcome to the conversation today.
Jonathan, it's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to be sitting down with you. You're joining us from the UK. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the future of emotional intelligence. I think this is a really fun topic. I always like talking about emotional intelligence, generally speaking. And in this day and age of technological disruption, artificial intelligence, deep machine learning, advanced robotics, advanced automation. I think emotional intelligence is as important as it's ever been. As we think about how to lead in the modern workplace and in the future of work. So this is what we're going to explore and unpack together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Robin's bio with everybody. Robin Hills is the director of EI for Change, a company specializing in educational training, coaching, and personal development focused around emotional intelligence, positive psychology, and neuroscience. He has taught over 400,000 people in 195 plus countries how to build resilience, increase self-awareness, and understanding of others. His educational programs on resilience and emotional intelligence cover the most comprehensive and detailed education of any emotional intelligence organization and are today used in educational establishments in South Africa and India. Robin is the author of 2 books and has, through his work, developed the experiential coaching methodology, Images of Resilience, to support cathartic conversations around resilience. He has delivered keynote speeches at conferences across the world, including at Harvard University, and sits on the Northwest Committee of the Association of Business Psychology. There's a lot more I could say, Robin, but I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Those numbers that you quoted are out of date. It's 500,000 people that take courses, and it's 200 countries. I didn't even think there were
Nice.
that many in the world, but those are the figures to date, and it seems that they're increasing in popularity. And I was honored earlier this year in receiving a doctorate from a university in Mexico based on my work around emotional intelligence. I'm deeply humbled by this because it was something that was very unexpected,
Mm,
but it's in recognition of my ability to bring emotional intelligence into the workplace and make it practical and make it applicable.
I love it. I love it. You've done so many great things. And again, thank you for sitting down to chat about this. So maybe to start with, we all know the term emotional intelligence. It's thrown around all the time. Maybe start by just telling us what you mean by emotional intelligence, because I think we tend to conflate a lot of things with the term, and it has a very precise meaning and something that I think you can lay out for us.
Sure. Well, you've got these two words, emotional and intelligence, and together they don't seem to work, but together
Mm,
they do work because we are human beings and we are driven, whether we like it or not, by our emotions. Our emotions are physiological and psychological adaptations to our environment. So as it changes around us, our physiology, our psychology, and therefore our emotions change. So, going back to your simple question, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is being smart with your feelings. It's
mm.
applying your intelligence to your emotions in order to make good quality decisions, build up authentic relationships, and take appropriate action. Sounds very simple. It is an extremely difficult construct to work with because it is so misunderstood. And of course, because we don't really understand our emotions as well as we should do.
there's that those simple aspects, yet it's hard to do. It's hard to develop emotional intelligence. It's hard to practice it sometimes, especially when we're in the throes of just day-to-day busyness and the grind of work. When we're faced with the challenges of the deep work of relationships, of the interpersonal challenges that we all face, when there's conflict, that's when it's really put to the test, right? It's easy to be quote unquote emotionally intelligent when everything's fine, when everything's happy, and we just go about our pleasant day with people that we like. It's hard to be emotionally intelligent when there's stress, when there's discomfort, when we're frustrated or angry, and when we're in the face of challenge that we're interacting with people around us. That's when it's really put to the test, and we have to decide how we're going to respond and how we're going to react. And that's the reality though of the world that we're in, because more often than not we're going to be in those types of situations, because there's constant disruption around us, there's constant change around us, and people are looking to us as leaders to see how we're going to respond and to see how we're going to react and be supportive or not supportive of our teams in those types of moments. So given that kind of a context, given that kind of an environment, what aspects of emotional intelligence do you think artificial intelligence might be able to replicate in the near future? What aspects do you think it won't be able to replicate that we as humans are going to be able to continue to hold on to as unique human components of who we are and what it means to lead and interact with each other?
Well, I think the important thing to state up front is that artificial intelligence cannot and will never have human emotions because
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence does not have a human brain. And so, because of that, there are certain things that we can do as humans that artificial intelligence will never be able to do. Um, I've got to say up front that I think artificial intelligence is a very good tool. It's not brilliant, it's very good. There are still elements of it that need working through and need developing, and hopefully it will develop in the right direction. But all this fear that people have got about artificial intelligence overtaking the world and we're all going to be replaced by robots is complete and utter rubbish. What we've got to do well, what we've got to do is to recognize our human qualities, and we've got to live, breathe, and emulate them in this world of artificial intelligence. And remember that artificial intelligence is just a tool. What is it that we can do that artificial intelligence can't do? Well, we have creativity and innovation. We can look at art. Art is fundamental to us being human. It evokes emotions. That's what art is all about. So, whilst artificial intelligence can churn out some really great pictures, they're not originals. And
Mm.
really, we've got to look at how we express ourselves through art. That brings into play, because we as human beings enjoy playing and we enjoy acting out things. So we enjoy going to films. We're not going to go to a movie that's just replicated by robots. It's just not going to work. Humans care for each other.
Yeah.
Not only do we have empathy, but we have the ability when we're ill or when we're not at our best to have people who actually care for us, which brings in a very deep human emotion, that of love. Um, and this is a fundamental emotion that we all experience and we all crave. And most of us are very lucky to be able to find a level of love that keeps us going. Now, that's a very interesting emotion to talk about when we're talking about the business environment. And a lot of people equate that emotion more to some kind of sexual gratification within the work environment, but it's not. I often say to people, well, do you love your work? And they will say, yes, I do, or well, no, I don't, but it's an appropriate association of that word. The other thing that we do as human beings is we search for meaning in our lives. And this pulls into question our spirituality, our search for meaning, our relationship with God, whoever or whatever we conceive him or her to be. And this is a fundamental part of being human. This is something that is beyond the comprehension of um, of artificial intelligence. It involves emotions and emotional intelligence, but I think it's a separate intelligence that we need to consider when we're looking at artificial intelligence. And then bringing everything back around into the work environment, we take our leadership cues from humans. They're able to strategically plan, and they can use entrepreneurial skills to
Mhm.
help us go and guide us in terms of our growth and in terms of our performance. That's not going to happen with a robot.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, right now you can have some fairly interesting interactions with a chat GPT or a Claude where it mimics some of these things, right? It can try to mimic some of those types of insights or emotions or interactions, but it's not real. And it's only faking or mimicking it. And it can only do it to an extent. And over time, as things advance, will it be able to mimic it better? Maybe, probably. But will it be able to um, truly replicate it? That's doubtful. And, and so there's always going to be a place for truly emotionally intelligent leader, the truly emotionally intelligent romantic partner, the truly emotionally intelligent friend, comrade, right? The coworker. We always are going to need to be able to work together in collaborative, creative, innovative ways. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. In fact, I think that's going to be ever present and even more important in not only the modern workplace, but in the future of work as we have continued technological disruption, as we have continued disruption and uh, uh, automation and improvements in terms of technologies. So, anyways, it's interesting to think about. It's interesting to try to imagine because we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what's going to be developed in the future in terms of computing capacity and all of those sorts of things. But there will be limits when you think about the brain as like the ultimate computer. You know, if we think about the brain versus an actual compute like the computers that we have, the brain has infinitely more capacity in terms of like processing power, computing power, the neurons firing and all of those sorts of things. I don't think we're like I don't see how we can possibly get to the point where we will have computing capacity with our technology that can approximate what our brains can do to get to the point where we can mimic, what our brains can do, right?
No, that's absolutely right. Look, let me run a little scenario past you. I'm down here in London running a workshop on emotional intelligence for a number of leaders from Western and Central Africa. We've been talking about anger management and how
Mm,
they manage the fact that or how they would go about managing people who do not perform or transgress some of their core values, do not align with the company values, do not align with the team values. They really do not come up to an agreed standard. Now, that requires human leadership. Well, does the leader get angry with that person, or do they choose another emotion? So, if a robot was in that scenario, it would react according to its programming, and it would react according to how it's learnt its programming. And if it's self-learning, it will learn a certain way of doing things. Well, um, if we then just take that scenario that I've just described to you, and the leader makes the choice not to be angry, but to actually share a different emotion, disappointment, they can actually then induce a degree of emotion around the person feeling guilty and
Hmm.
feeling shame because they've actually not come up to a certain standard. So if the leader was to say, I'm extremely disappointed in you, I expected better of you, you've let yourself down, you've let me down, you've let the team down, you really haven't come up to the way in which I would have expected you to have performed, the person is going to go away from that interaction feeling really lousy because they have let the team down, they've let the leader down. Now, all you've got to do is put a robot in that leadership position saying the same things. And what's the person going to do? They're just going to shrug their shoulders and say, I don't care. So this is where the human to human connection will never be replicated by a robot. And okay, we can have some really good robot leaders, but they haven't got that ability to connect with humans at the emotional level. They haven't got the ability to care about another person's performance, good or bad. So these are things that I think what we've got to do moving forward is to build upon these things that I'm highlighting and that you're highlighting, John, around what makes us human and what we can do in the future to work with very positively the tools that we've now been given. It's going to change. It's going to change dramatically. We're going to change as humans, but we can change for the better.
So what would you say are some of those things, what are some of those capabilities, those skills, those competencies that we need to develop to future-proof ourselves as leaders in the future? As there are all these technological improvements that are going on around us.
I think the key component, which is a key fundamental component of emotional intelligence that we really do need to focus in on, is empathy. And it's the way in which we understand another person's point of view through their thinking and their emotions and their behavior. And if we can work to empathize with people, then we will build up better relationships. This is something, again, that a robotic brain, a computer brain, will never be able to do. But even though you and I are thousands of miles apart, you and I are empathizing with each other. And by so doing, I am influencing your brain structure and you are
Hmm.
influencing my brain structure. And my brain is going to change as a result of my interaction with you, John, and yours will change according to the interaction with me. Now, that's not going to happen with a robot. Yes, the algorithm might alter slightly, but the fundamental components of that brain will remain exactly the same. Whereas ours are a lot more plastic. We
Yeah.
have, uh, hundreds of thousands, billions, millions of years of evolution to get to this point. It's not going to happen with a bit of programming over a few decades.
I can't help but think, as you've been sharing some of, your analysis here and experience, I think of examples like Star Trek or Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think of if for anyone who has watched that show, and you think of the character Data, uh, who's the robot who's part of the crew. And what does he lack? He lacks empathy. He lacks emotion. He's very smart. He can compute and come up with decisions immediately. He's a great asset. He's a great tool, but he lacks emotion. He lacks empathy. He lacks humor. He lacks the ability to connect, on that personal level. And it's exactly what you're describing, right? It just is fundamentally different than a human to human connection. And so as we move into the future of work, as we try to shore up our, as we try to future proof our own, jobs and make sure that we are relevant in the future, we try to develop our competencies and capabilities for the future. Yeah, we need to lean into what makes us human, our empathy, our emotional intelligence, our creativity, our innovative capacities. Like those are the things that set us apart. Those are the things that are just fundamentally different than what advanced robotics and deep machine learning and artificial intelligence are or can do or will be able to replicate. And so let's lean into those things. That's going to set us apart as leaders today and tomorrow, and will allow us to be better leaders, certainly, but also it'll secure our jobs. It'll help us to set our organizations forward.
Yeah, apologies. There's police siren going past, which the microphone will have picked up. There is one other component that we do as human beings very, very well that the robots, artificial intelligence computers find incredibly difficult to do, and that's to make judgments and decisions. And it's as simple as, do I buy a red car or do I buy a blue car? It's emotional decision that drives that decision. Either car will get us from A to B, and it doesn't matter what the color of the car is, which is where the computing algorithms are really going to fall down. So if we then chunk up that judgment and decision making to a bigger, broader, and more important level, we are then in a position where judges and lawyers are going to be future proofed because they will use their intuition and the nuances around what they're hearing to make appropriate judgments. So this is another area where we can retain our elements of humanity. And then there are other things where creativity and judgment comes in. Things like, look at the wonderful background behind you, John. That will have been put together by an interior designer. So they will have used artistic expression and materials in order to create that wonderful environment. I know it's artificial, but and I'm sure your leaders do too, but it's another example. And then after the interview, it's early evening here in London, so I'm going to go out to a restaurant and enjoy a meal that will be cooked and put together by a chef, using their skill and ingredients to make it really tasty and really rewarding for me in terms of not only the flavors and the textures. And then again, this is something that really only a human can do because they can actually taste the food and say, yeah, that's fit for purpose. That's at the quality and the standard that I want. Yeah, go and give it to Robin.
Absolutely. Robin, such a great conversation. I note the time. I need to let you go here in just a minute. Before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, sure. People can contact me through LinkedIn. I'm very fortunate, and I was on LinkedIn very, very early in its inception. So you just have to put Robin Hills into the search engine, and up I come. Or find me at eiforchange.com. That's EI number 4 change.com. And if you're interested in more information around emotional intelligence, you can sign up for a free book on that page. Or if you dig around, you can sign up for some free courses. And also, you can have a look at my online emotional intelligence courses that will cover a lot of what we've talked about, but go into a lot more depth. So that's how you can find me. And really, to wrap things up, I think the important thing is for you, your listeners, and me to go away and really focus in on what makes us special, what makes us unique, because there's never going to be another Robin Hills. There's never going to be another John Westover. So, what is it that makes us really engage with the world? What makes us special? And what gives us the meaning? to be what we are destined to be.
I love it. We're all unique. There's no one else like us. Let's lean into that. Um, I love that we have all this technology around us. It enhances our capacity. It's a tool, but it doesn't need to replace us because there's so much that we bring to the table. I love how emotional intelligence can help us to strengthen us and to help us to be better and to allow us to expand our capacities as well. Robin, thank you so much for all that you shared with us today, the many insights. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Robin can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.